Hi, I'm Steve Vargo with a new video series called Can I Ask You One Question, where we track down industry experts and gurus and we try to learn one thing from them that we can immediately apply to our professional lives or our personal lives. So I'm going to pick the brain of one Dr. Alan Glazier. So Alan, it's great to see you.
Yeah, always great to see you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Ellen, I don't remember when I joined ODs on Facebook. It was a long time ago. But what I do remember is I was one of the first 500 because I still remember you posting, we're at 500. What is the count now?
Uh, well, I can find your number because I log it in. If you want to know, I'll do that when we're done. We're at 43,700-ish now.
Okay, so you've grown a little bit. So you've obviously been very influential in growing your brand on social media, the founder of ODs on Facebook. You've used multiple platforms to grow a practice and build a brand. And those platforms have changed a lot over the years. And now you even have a show on YouTube called Fluorescein. So my question to you is that if you were to start a practice today and you wanted to leverage the power of social media to build your practice, to build your brand, where would you invest your time and energy?
There's really, that's a great question, and it really boils everything down for the small business person, especially the people who kind of don't really think it's necessary, or maybe are a little bit scared of it. That's not the younger group of ODs now. It's always been the older group. But there's really only two goals. If you want to do marketing now, you have to be online. You're missing out on too big a part of the population in a couple ways, and I'm going to explain that. But there's only two ways to use it for small businesses, and that would mean our practices. And uh, when you're doing one of the ways, you automatically end up doing the other. So that's convenient. You don't have to know too much. The most important thing to remember, the number one thing by far, is that you have to create content that establishes you as a thought leader in the minds of the readers, as an authority, as an expert in the topics that you hope to drive people in to see you with. Now, content is simply writing. When you write a post on Facebook or Twitter, that's content. When you create a blog or a video or a podcast, a picture of something cool in your office with a tag on it, all of these things are content. There's a whole list. Games or contests. These are all things. Now, the content you create, though, has to have more value to the reader than to yourself. In other words, it has to be non-promotional. You have to showcase your expertise and give away your knowledge in order to draw people towards you. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't like giving away their expertise for free, but it's just the way it is. It's not going to work if you don't do that. Um, Anything that's written, and even anything that's video recorded now, should contain keywords, key phrases that people use to search for the products and services you want to be found for. So, because that's how it'll get into the second part of this, how that works in a minute. And it should be published regularly over a long period of time. Um, and one thing people always ask me is, well, how much content should I create? And in my book I wrote in 2010 on how I use social media to grow my practice, I had Glazier's rule, and I was really excited to have a rule. I had a rule, and it's Glazier's rule. Anyhow, Glazier's rule says you can never create too much content as long as the content you create has more value to the end user than to yourself. And when you do that, again, you start to create an audience. That's how you get followers. That's how people learn about you, and that's how people find you nowadays in these forums. And the second way is that by doing all of this, you automatically get recognized by Google as an expert in the subjects that you write about, and Google elevates your listing in searches for the products and services that you hope to be found for. And that's called search engine optimization, also known as SEO, which is critical, absolutely critical, because the people in your area who are doing this are elevating themselves in search. And unless you are also, people aren't going to find you. You need to be positioned really well on page one of Google. And there are other factors that you can do. I'm going to not take this on too much longer, but to make sure that you have good SEO, and that other than good content, and that is getting good social reviews, because Google layers these things to paint a picture of you to decide if it should elevate you. So if you're creating good content and you're reviewed well, meaning you have a good business, they're going to want to show you to the people who use their search engine. And your website or your landing page, whether it's a blog or whatever, or a YouTube channel, needs to be well thought out and not templated. In other words, you should have a real developer develop it from the ground up so that you can take advantage of what the back end coding that helps you with this SEO. And then finally, the last thing is you'll enter your content goes into what we call a content marketing funnel, where you shoot it out to your social media pages in a manner that helps drive people back to your homepage, where you can capture things like emails and send your own customized message without having to depend on platforms that are owned by Facebook or whatever. And so that's basically really boiled it down to those two things.
It would be hard to saturate the market these days in social media, wouldn't it? With so many different platforms out there. I mean, unless you're bombarding somebody's email inbox. I remember hearing Gary Vaynerchuk say that, who, if you're familiar with him, he just puts out content continuously. And he says one of the concerns that he hears from people is how much is too much. And he says it's really difficult. We have so many channels now out there that it would be really difficult to oversaturate yourself. So it's interesting that you said the frequency or the quantity, as long as it's interesting and relevant, it would be hard to have too much going out there. And the reviews, there's that social proof component to that. I know I hear doctors say, I don't care what people put on my reviews, but other people do. And it's such a critical component of your ability to sell yourself, is people tend to look toward what are other people saying. We have a cognitive bias, right, toward what other people tend to think. So I think we need to be mindful of that as well on the review side.
Yeah, I think to add to that, you're exactly right. And I've met Gary. We actually hung out one time. Neat guy. He's a million miles a minute. I thought I had a lot of energy, man. But the stuff you create, the goal is really to create share-worthy content, and meaning something that somebody sees and not only gains value from, but like, this is cool. This and this friend needs to know about it. And you want to kind of go towards that, trying to get that viral thing out there. So yeah, if it's annoying, it can work against you. And I think you'll get a good feel of that based on the response you get from what content you create. But generally, it's none of us. I mean, look, we're talking about people who barely even are doing anything on social media. I don't think they're going to have any trouble oversharing. I don't think that'll be an optometrist concern.
Yeah. Alan, I could talk with you all day, but I made the strategic decision to call this "Can I Ask You One Question?" which I think I already broke that premise. So I love the show that you have out. Tell us just a little bit about that. How would somebody, where can they watch it? How would they see your new late night show?
Yeah, thanks. So we're excited to bring the first TV show, a late night, what I call a late night show, to optometry. It's called The Fluor Scene, Fluor. I was spelling it wrong all these. I was spelling it like flower scene, and SCENE. And what it is, it's a scene of all the channels I've created, kind of pulled together and then presented through this. All the information shared, interviews, we have features, and it's a lot of fun. It's on YouTube. If you search the word fluorescein spelled properly, you'll find it. And we look forward to having you. Also posting it on ODs on Facebook and on our LinkedIn channel and everything. So if you're in any of these networks, you'll probably see it, and come by and please subscribe and consider sharing it with your friends as well.
Will do. Thanks so much, Alan. You'll have to tell me the story about Gary Vaynerchuk sometime. So
yeah, definitely. I love what you do. Keep up the good work, and thank you for everything you bring to the industry.
You as well. Thank you, buddy.